General Hospital spoilers tease that Portia's arrest marks a devastating turn of events in the already volatile world of Port Charles. The ongoing scandal involving Drew's blackmail plot, which used Portia's involvement with the ketamine scandal as leverage, has finally come to a head. What started as a calculated maneuver by Drew to maintain control over his custody battle for Amelia and Wiley has spiraled out of control, with Portia at the center of this explosive mess. The news of her arrest sends shockwaves through the entire town, exposing not only her involvement in the illegal drug use but also Drew's role in manipulating her for his personal gain. Drew's blackmail over Portia has been building in intensity for months. He had forced her into a corner, compelling her to conceal the truth about her actions regarding the ketamine, actions that, had they been discovered, could have ruined her medical career and personal life. Now, as the truth begins to unravel, Portia finds herself facing criminal charges that could destroy everything she has worked for. The once respected doctor is now publicly humiliated, and the damage to her reputation is almost irreparable. While Portia tries to keep the worst of the situation hidden, she can no longer escape the consequences of her decisions. And the weight of it all begins to take its toll on her mentally and emotionally. But as devastating as Portia's arrest is, it is only a small part of the larger web of deceit that is starting to unravel in Port Charles. Drew's role in the blackmail is becoming more suspect as the truth about his manipulations comes to light. What was originally perceived as a well-calculated move to gain the upper hand in his custody battle is now revealed as a deeply flawed and dangerous scheme that has hurt everyone around him. Drew, once seen as a hero in his own right, is now a villain whose actions are slowly tearing apart the lives of those closest to him. As more information comes to light, it becomes clear that Drew's plan was not just a misguided attempt at control but part of a deeper, more sinister plot. The emotional fallout for Portia is profound. She is not only dealing with the criminal implications of her actions, but she is also facing the personal betrayal of those she thought she could trust. Her relationship with Drew, which was already strained, is now in complete disarray. She is forced to come to terms with the fact that her involvement in his schemes has led to her own downfall. And the cost of her silence and compliance is now clearer than ever before. What was once a quiet, controlled life for Portia is now a chaotic mess that will take a long time to untangle. As Portia faces the harsh consequences of her actions, the ripple effects of her arrest begin to spread throughout Port Charles. Drew's secrets are slowly being exposed, and the people who have been hurt by his manipulations are starting to see him for who he really is. The fallout from this scandal won't be limited to Portia's career or reputation. It will affect every person connected to Drew and everyone caught in the web of lies that he has carefully woven. His manipulation of Portia is just one piece of a much larger puzzle that is only beginning to come together. The arrest itself is just the beginning of a much larger storm. Portia's personal life, including her relationships with her family and friends, is on the brink of destruction. She is forced to face the consequences of betraying those closest to her and trying to protect Drew for so long. As the town of Port Charles holds its breath, wondering what will happen next, Portia's fate remains uncertain. Will she face the full weight of the law, or will those she's wronged be able to find a way to forgive her? The impact of this scandal will have far-reaching consequences, not only for Portia but for everyone connected to her. Drew's manipulation of the situation will continue to haunt him as he is forced to face the reality of what he has done. The coming months will bring even more secrets to light, and no one in Port Charles will come out unscathed. What began as a battle over custody has quickly turned into an all-out war, with lives destroyed and relationships shattered in its wake. As Portia's story unfolds, the viewers of General Hospital will be on the edge of their seats, watching as she tries to rebuild her life, navigate the legal consequences of her actions, and mend the broken relationships with those she loves. Meanwhile, Drew will be left to deal with the fallout from his own actions. And the people of Port Charles will have to come to terms with the shocking truth about the man they once thought they knew. Portia's arrest has sent shockwaves throughout Port Charles, and the ripple effects of her actions are far-reaching, impacting not just her life but the lives of those closest to her. With the walls closing in on her, her involvement in the ketamine scandal is becoming a public nightmare, and it's becoming increasingly clear that her legal troubles are not just her own. The chaos surrounding her arrest has begun to unravel her relationships, starting with the once solid bond between Trina and Kai. Trina, caught in the middle of her mother's crisis, is struggling with the emotional toll this scandal is taking on her. She finds herself torn between her loyalty to Portia and the mounting pressure to navigate her relationship with Kai. Their connection, which had once felt strong and unshakable, now faces the strain of a future that is uncertain. Trina, unsure of how to reconcile the turmoil in her family and the stress of her personal life, faces a difficult crossroads. Will she fight for her love with Kai? Or will the chaos surrounding her mother's downfall drive them further apart? As Trina faces these emotional and moral dilemmas, the intensity of the situation is creating new tensions between the other residents of Port Charles. In particular, Curtis and Jordan's relationship, which had already weathered its fair share of challenges, is once again thrust into the spotlight. While the two have struggled with trust and communication, Portia's arrest has brought them closer together in ways no one anticipated. In the midst of the growing crisis, their emotions and bond are reigniting. It's as if the heat of Portia's scandal has stoked the fire that was once fading between Curtis and Jordan, leading to unexpected passion and deepening feelings. The intense pressure of the situation may have broken many relationships, but in this case, it appears to be pushing Curtis and Jordan closer, both emotionally and physically. This rekindling of their love is complicated by the fact that Curtis and Jordan are both emotionally vulnerable. Curtis, who has already dealt with so much loss and betrayal in his life, is now forced to confront the emotional fallout from his relationship with Portia. He finds himself at a crossroads, as the woman he loves has made decisions that could change everything for their future. For Jordan, too, the return of her feelings for Curtis is laced with the fear of losing everything she's worked for. Her loyalty to her family, especially to her children, is put to the test as she grapples with the weight of Portia's downfall. The emotional stakes for both of them are high, and it's clear that their relationship will face yet another trial in the wake of Portia's scandal. However, the situation isn't just about love and relationships. The bigger question is whether Portia's downfall will tear everything apart or bring these characters closer together. As Trina navigates her own feelings of guilt and fear about her mother's arrest, she must also confront the reality of her relationship with Kai. Will Kai stand by her through this storm, or will the pressure of their circumstances force them to go their separate ways? With both Trina and Curtis facing personal turmoil and the threat of more revelations about Portia's actions, their emotional journeys will be marked by tough decisions and painful moments. In the backdrop of all this personal chaos, the power dynamics in Port Charles are shifting. Portia's arrest, Drew's manipulations, and the impending fallout for Sonny and his empire are creating a powder keg ready to explode. No one is safe from the consequences of these tangled webs of deceit, love, and betrayal. As the drama unfolds, it will test not only the strength of familial bonds but also the resilience of the characters who have been shaped by the betrayals of those they once trusted. While Portia's arrest is certainly a turning point, it's the aftermath and the changes it sets in motion that will truly shape the future of Port Charles. The unresolved tensions between Trina and Kai, Curtis and Jordan's rekindled passion, and the fallout from Drew's manipulations will all contribute to the chaos. It's clear that nothing will remain the same in the wake of these events. Every character will be forced to confront their own demons, face the consequences of their actions, and determine what kind of future they want to build, if they can build one at all. Portia's downfall may have triggered this storm, but the full impact of her actions will reverberate throughout the town for months to come, leaving everyone to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. The growing rift between Carly and Michael is setting the stage for one of the most intense and dramatic confrontations yet in Port Charles. As Michael's obsession with power deepens, he is increasingly alienating the people he once held closest, including his mother Carly. What started as a simple difference of opinion has now escalated into a full-blown battle for control, with Carly and Michael standing on opposite sides of a high-stakes conflict that threatens to tear their family apart. At the center of this brewing storm is the wedding of Drew and Willow, a celebration of love that was supposed to unite two families. For Carly, the wedding represents not just the union of two people she cares deeply about, but also an opportunity to heal some of the wounds within the Corinthos family. But for Michael, the event has become something much more. He sees Drew and Willow's wedding as a symbol of his own growing vulnerability within the family and the business, and he's determined to take drastic action to ensure his position of power is secure. Michael's decision to sabotage Drew and Willow's wedding is rooted in his overwhelming need to assert control over every aspect of his life. He believes that this is the only way to protect what is his and to prevent anyone from threatening the fragile balance he has worked so hard to create. His obsession with power is consuming him, pushing him to take extreme measures that will have lasting consequences for everyone involved. Whether it's through his underhanded tactics or by exploiting the situation to his advantage, Michael is determined to ensure that no one stands in his way. Carly, however, is caught in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. As a mother, she is fiercely protective of Michael, but her loyalty to Drew and Willow is equally strong. Drew, who has always been like a son to Carly, and Willow, who has become a close friend, are both caught in the crossfire of Michael's destructive actions. Carly is faced with the painful reality that her son's actions may not only cost him the love and support of his family but could also destroy the bonds that have taken years to build. This moral conflict puts Carly in a precarious position. She knows that Michael is pushing boundaries and taking risks that could endanger not only his future but the stability of the entire Corinthos empire. But her maternal instincts tell her to protect her son, no matter the cost. Carly is torn between her desire to stop Michael from making a catastrophic mistake and her own personal loyalties to those she cares about. The wedding, once meant to be a joyous occasion for Drew and Willow, is now on the verge of being completely overshadowed by Michael's machinations. His interference is already creating a toxic atmosphere, and the stakes are rising as the wedding approaches. For Michael, it's not just about his family's legacy, it's about his control over the entire narrative of his life. He believes that by sabotaging Drew and Willow's wedding, he can solidify his dominance in the family and send a clear message that he will not be outdone. But as Carly and Michael continue to clash, the consequences of his actions begin to ripple throughout the entire town of Port Charles. Carly's relationship with Michael is forever changed by the events surrounding Drew and Willow's wedding. And Drew and Willow are left to grapple with the fallout of Michael's betrayal. The impact of Michael's obsession with power doesn't just affect his relationship with his mother, it puts everything at risk, including the people he loves. The tension between Carly and Michael is reaching a boiling point, and the resolution of this conflict will have lasting repercussions on the future of the Corinthos family. Will Carly be able to stop Michael before it's too late? Will she be forced to choose between her son and those she has grown close to? And how will Drew and Willow's relationship survive the fallout from Michael's sabotage? As the drama unfolds, one thing is clear, Michael's struggle for control is just beginning. And the consequences of his actions will echo through the lives of everyone in Port Charles. Carly and Michael's battle for dominance, love, and loyalty is far from over. And the stakes couldn't be higher. The upcoming wedding of Drew and Willow is just the beginning of a much larger and more dangerous game that is about to be played. As Drew and Portia find themselves caught in a rapidly unfolding web of lies, betrayal, and personal failure, their once promising futures are now rapidly deteriorating. The ambitious plans Drew has for power and control have begun to unravel, and with each passing moment, the world he's tried so desperately to build seems to be collapsing around him. His reckless drive to expand his empire has not only alienated those closest to him but also dragged Portia into a situation from which she cannot escape unscathed. The gravity of Drew's decisions has led to a series of catastrophic events, and Portia, whose involvement was once seen as innocuous, now finds herself a key player in a drama that threatens to destroy both her and Drew's lives. The mounting pressure on Drew is intensifying as his attempts to maintain control spiral further out of his grasp, as he faces mounting consequences for his increasingly erratic behavior. Drew's empire, built on manipulation and deceit, is showing the cracks that many had long ignored. For Portia, her connection to Drew has become a source of her own undoing. Once a respected and successful figure, her reputation is now being questioned, and the moral compromises she has made are becoming harder and harder to ignore. The facade she once hid behind has been shattered, and as her actions come to light, she is forced to confront the true cost of her choices. The increasingly toxic relationship between Drew and Portia has only intensified the chaos they both face. Drew, now overwhelmed by his crumbling empire, begins to lash out at anyone and everyone around him, including the people he once trusted. Portia, caught between loyalty to Drew and the growing realization that her involvement with him is destroying everything she holds dear, must navigate a delicate balance between protecting her own future and trying to protect Drew from the inevitable fallout. But as much as she tries to maintain control, her every move seems to backfire, pushing her further into a corner. Portia's descent into this mess of deceit is not a slow burn, it is an explosion. A fiery unraveling of everything she thought she had secured. Her once stable career, her relationships, and her own sense of identity are now all up for grabs as Drew's increasingly desperate attempts to regain control hurtle them both toward destruction. The deeper she becomes entangled in Drew's manipulations, the harder it becomes for her to extricate herself. The truth about her involvement, however small, is becoming impossible to hide. Meanwhile, Drew's obsession with power and control has only grown more pronounced as he tries to keep his crumbling empire intact. The fallout from his actions is undeniable, and the weight of the consequences is beginning to crush him. The people around him who were once loyal now seem like enemies, and the paranoia that has gripped him is only getting worse. As he fights to maintain his grip on everything he's worked for, the walls close in on him, and the very empire he's worked so hard to build starts to collapse under the pressure. As the tension continues to rise, both Drew and Portia are forced to face the consequences of their actions head-on. Drew's lies and manipulations have caught up with him, and Portia, once an innocent bystander in this chaotic world, now finds herself deeply involved in the mess Drew has created. Her loyalty to him is now in question, and she must make a choice. Continue down this path of self-destruction or cut ties with Drew and attempt to rebuild her life. The weight of the situation is immense, and neither Drew nor Portia can escape the looming storm that has been unleashed by their actions. Their future, once filled with promise and possibility, now hangs in the balance. And as the stakes continue to rise, it's clear that nothing will ever be the same again for either of them. What started as a pursuit of power and control has now become a race to survive. And as Drew and Portia try to navigate their complicated relationship, the consequences of their choices will reverberate throughout their lives. With Drew's empire teetering on the edge of collapse and Portia's reputation hanging by a thread, it's impossible to predict what the future holds for them. The devastating truth about their involvement in the web of lies and deceit is coming to light, and as they both try to salvage what's left of their lives, they must face the brutal reality that their actions have set off a chain of events that they cannot undo. The destruction that has followed them is immense, and the road ahead will be fraught with challenges that will test their very limits. Curtis is in the midst of a profound transformation, as his life is taking a sharp turn. The challenges he is facing are not just personal, but professional as well, creating a perfect storm of pressures that are threatening to unravel everything he's worked for. As the weight of the circumstances grows heavier, Curtis finds himself struggling to maintain control, unsure of what the future holds. These new obstacles are not just tests of his character. They're forcing him to reassess his entire life. The pressure from all sides is intensifying, and he is quickly realizing that his once secure world is slipping through his fingers. Trina, who has always been a pillar of strength in Curtis's life, is also grappling with her own set of challenges. Their relationship, which had once seemed like a safe harbor amid the chaos, is now facing a turbulent storm. The stakes are higher than ever as both Curtis and Trina are forced to navigate the complex web of emotional and psychological challenges surrounding them. They have always been each other's support, but now, the very thing that held them together, their bond, is being put to the test. The emotional strain on both of them is palpable, and the questions of loyalty, trust, and resilience hang over them like a dark cloud. The situation Curtis is facing is not just a personal crisis, it's one that impacts everyone in his orbit. Every decision he makes seems to have consequences that ripple outward, touching not just Trina, but other people in his life as well. His choices, once seemingly insignificant, are now loaded with immense weight, and as the walls close in, Curtis is left to confront the full scope of the fallout from his actions. What started as a personal dilemma is quickly escalating into a larger battle that could affect his career, his reputation, and his relationships. For Trina, the stakes couldn't be higher. She's caught in the middle of a storm, trying to keep her relationship with Curtis intact while grappling with the chaos around them. Their love story, once a source of strength and solace, is now becoming a battleground. Trina's own personal journey is also being threatened by the outside forces that are closing in on Curtis. She's struggling to maintain her own identity while being caught up in the whirlwind of Curtis's challenges. And she is forced to make difficult decisions about what she's willing to sacrifice for their relationship. Their bond, which once felt unshakable, is now being tested in ways neither of them anticipated. The emotional and mental toll this situation is taking on both Curtis and Trina is immense. It's not just about them surviving the external challenges they face, it's about whether they can survive each other's fears, doubts, and insecurities. The pressures are pushing them to their limits. And every step they take seems to bring them closer to a breaking point. Curtis, feeling the weight of his decisions, must confront his own demons and the mistakes he's made. At the same time, Trina is facing her own crisis of faith, questioning her place in Curtis's world as things continue to spiral out of control. The future of their relationship is now uncertain. They both want to be together, but the obstacles they face are immense, and the emotional fallout of everything that's happened is too much to ignore. Curtis is caught between his desire to protect Trina and his own overwhelming need to fix everything. Trina, on the other hand, is trying to hold on to the man she loves while wrestling with the reality that she may not be able to save him from himself. As the situation worsens, the stakes rise higher. And the decisions Curtis and Trina make now will shape their future. Whether they can weather this storm together or whether the pressures they face will tear them apart remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, the course of their lives is changing, and every choice they make is bringing them closer to either a new chapter or an irreversible end. Their journey together is at a crossroads, and the path they choose will define not only their future as a couple but also their individual paths forward. As Curtis faces the fallout from his decisions and Trina contemplates the future of their relationship, it's impossible to predict what will happen next. But the stakes have never been higher.